The Varieties of Mindfulness Application in Buddhism by Venerable Rung Ruang Pa Pa Saro, Dr. Rung Ruang Lim Chu Patipa. In Buddhism, mindfulness is used in wide-range applications during performing Buddhist practice as follows. To monitor mind conditions by establishing mindfulness to monitor the mind conditions whether the mind is wholesome or unwholesome.
And by establishing mindfulness to investigate on the mind conditions whether the mind is wholesome, good, or unwholesome, evil. Then we can conclude that being wholesome is not directly related to being satisfactory or unsatisfactory. But what will be a good determination for wholesomeness is that the wholesomeness is something that is beneficial to life, and the unwholesomeness is something that is harmful to life.
Establishing mindfulness to abstain the mind from unwholesomeness by becoming sense faculty at the sixth sense basis.
On seeing a form with the eye, he does not grasp at its signs and features. Since, if he left the eye faculty unguarded, evil unwholesome states of longing and dejection might invade him. He practices the way of its restraint. He establishes mindfulness to guard the eye faculty. He undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty. On hearing a sound with the ear. On smelling an odor with the nose. On tasting a flavor with the tongue. On feeling a tactile object with the body. On cognizing mental phenomenon with the mind, he does not grasp at its signs and features. Since, if he left the mind faculty unguarded, evil unwholesome states of longing and dejection might invade him. He practices the way of its restraint. He establishes mindfulness to guard the mind faculty, and he undertakes the restraint of the mind faculty.
To establish mindfulness with careful attention in Yoniso Manasikara to manage the mind to be wholesome.
When the sun rises at dawn, the golden light of the sun will shine as a sign of the beginning of the day. So does the Yoniso Manasikara, mindfulness with careful attention. Yoniso Manasikara is a sign leading to the success of Buddhist practice like the dawn in the morning. Anyone who want to be successful in Buddhist practice, then having to perform the Yoniso Manasikara. Anyone who want to reach the 7 factors for enlightenment, then having to perform the Yoniso Manasikara.
To safeguard the mind by establishing mindfulness to abandon any arising unwholesomeness inside the mind, and then the mind becomes internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated.
Everyone should establish mindfulness before him in order to safeguard the mind from any stimulus coming through the 6 sense bases, so that he will not grasp at its signs and features that may lead him to become unwholesome in 4 areas as follows. Having mindfulness to safeguard the mind when encountering with the matters of sensual pleasure and the development of greed. Having mindfulness to safeguard the mind when encountering with the matters of irritation and the development of hatred. Having mindfulness to safeguard the mind when encountering with the matters of doubt and the development of delusion. Having mindfulness to safeguard the mind when encountering with craving, clinging, and ignorance with desire and lust. The person whose mind is mindful at all the time should have a full confidence, and not being afraid of any matter in the world.
Establishing mindfulness to position the mind at the present moment in order to abandon the depression of the past and the anxiety of the future. This is the most effective way to get rid of any depression and anxiety in everyday life.
One should neither run back into what happened in the past, nor be afraid of what is going to happen in the future. Whatsoever happened is already happened, and it arises and fades away. It is impossible to change the past. Whatsoever to happen in the future is dependently on a certain cause and effect. If do it right, then the outcome will be right as well. Especially at this moment, nothing is happening yet. What the depression and anxiety are about, it is just an object of consciousness happening inside the mind. It is important to realize that whatsoever happening in the mind, it arises and eventually fades away. Those who established mindfulness at the present moment all day and night, will have nothing to be worried about and to be afraid of. We should have mindfulness at the present moment because when the mind has received either a stimulus of external mental phenomenon from sense bases or an internal formulated mental phenomenon, if we do not think of whatsoever happened in the past or of whatsoever will happen in the future, and then the mind will not be bothered with any matter anymore. That is, we should not think of what happened in the past, and do not run forward into the expectation of what will happen in the future, but we should firmly keep the mind to be steadied at the present moment only. Then the mind will not be afraid of anything. And the mind will abandon the 5 aggregates subject to clinging.
To sharpen the quality of mindfulness to become purified mindfulness with equanimity in the 4th jhana and to be ready for performing insight observation.
After abandoning sensual pleasure, and all unwholesome ones of the 5 lower fetters, then the mid is in the 1st jhana, which is accompanied by thought and examination, with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. Again, with the subsiding of thought and examination, both an initial thought and liberated thinking are abandoned, then the mind dwells into the 2nd jhana with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. Again, with the fading away as well of rapture, the mind dwells into the 3rd jhana. He is mindful, one who dwells happily. Again, with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, the mind dwells into the 4th jhana, with equanimity which has neither pain nor pleasure and purity of mindfulness, due to equanimity.
Establishing mindfulness to see the Dharma when performing insight observation in the 4 mindfulness foundations.
This is the one-way path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the passing away of pain and dejection, for the attainment of the true way, for the realization of nirvana, namely, the 4 establishments of mindfulness. What are the 4? Here, the one who dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, and mindful, having subdued longing and dejection regarding the world. He dwells contemplating feelings in feelings, ardent, clearly comprehending, and mindful, having subdued longing and dejection regarding the world. He dwells contemplating mind in mind, ardent, clearly comprehending, and mindful, having subdued longing and dejection regarding the world. He dwells contemplating phenomena in phenomena, ardent, clearly comprehending, and mindful, having subdued longing and dejection regarding the world.
Establishing mindfulness to make 7 aspects of investigations on each mental phenomenon.
1-2. During performing insight observation, we can realize that the mental phenomenon is the object of consciousness, and if we keep on the observation for a while, we can realize that each of them arises and fades away inside mind processing. When one is gone, then a new one coming up in life like a stream of events. The changing of the object of consciousness makes a change from one state of mind to another state of mind. Life as the stream of consciousness causes a series of states of mind, reflecting a symphony of varieties of what are happening in life. 3-4. And as we make a continuation on the observation of the changing of the states of mind, then we can determine that cause and effect of each particular mental phenomenon, that is, there is a certain cause that make the particular phenomenon to arise, and then that particular phenomenon will make an effect to induce the next phenomenon to arise. This is called a law of cause and effect in nature. 5-6. By having the continuity of observations on stream of consciousness, then we can see the benefit and harm of a particular state of mind. That is, we can contemplate that some states of mind are wholesome, and leading to beneficial results, while some other states of mind are unwholesome, and leading to harmful results. This is a kind of insight wisdom to decide what is right and wrong to life, and we should learn how to abandon the unwholesome mind which will lead to suffering in life. 7. Now the mind will develop instructed cognition by selecting a proper dharma to abandon an arising unwholesome mind by wisdom.
Establishing mindfulness to activate the insight cognitive development for introspective learning to gain wisdom.
The mind has the 4 special cognitive capabilities to acknowledge what is happening in nature as follows. 1. Life is an execution of stream of consciousness, and at each instance of having consciousness when having consciousness to fetch the object of consciousness. Then the mind will acknowledge on the object of consciousness reflecting on what is happening around in the world including the internal state of mind, and thus this capability is called the element of acknowledgement. 2. As the mind continuously processes in stream of consciousness as being alive, the mind will accumulate and memorize all experiences in life. This part of acknowledge element of mind is called memory. There will be two types of memories, either the right one or the wrong one. That is, if the memory is on wholesomeness, then it is called an instructed cognition, and if the memory is on unwholesomeness, then it is called an uninstructed cognition. And the application of the information on individuality is called karma. 3. The cognition can be either the right one or the wrong one. The cognition on the truths of nature is called wisdom. By establishing mindfulness, performing insight observation to see the dharma of life, then the mind will make a right cognitive process development to gain wisdom. 4. The mind has an adaptive capability to make use of wisdom to respond to the arising state of mind in mind processing. Buddhism utilizes this special capability for the destruction of the taints with the cessations of craving, clinging, and ignorance in the process of dependent origination, and then the mind will be purified and liberated by wisdom, and this is way to make an end of suffering in life.
Establishing mindfulness to be accompanied with the wisdom for the destruction of the taints, and all kinds of defilements happening inside the mind.
When a noble disciple has thus understood taint, the origin of taint, the cessation of taint, and the way leading up to the cessation of taint, he here and now makes an end of suffering. In that way too a noble disciple is one of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, and has arrived at this true Dharma.
The Buddha made use of mindfulness to handle all kinds of troubling minds, starting with establishing mindfulness to become mind faculty at the sixth sense basis to abstain any problem of incoming stimulus from the world, and then by keeping on monitoring the mind conditions, whenever the mind is unwholesome. Immediately by establishing mindfulness with careful attention, we can abandon the arising unwholesomeness with proper dharma. Then mind will become internally steadied, composed, unified, and concentrated. The mindfulness with concentration will power up the mind to be mindful with clear comprehending to abandon all the 5 lower fetters, and after then the mind will dwell into the first jhana, which is absorption with mindfulness, and once reaching into the 4th jhana, the purified mindfulness with equanimity will be developed for performing insight observation of the 4 mindfulness foundations to gain wisdom. And finally the mindfulness accompanied with insight wisdom will be used for the destruction of the taints, and the mind is fully liberated by wisdom to make an end of suffering in life.